At the beginning of June, Jeff Wilke, who is Amazon's CEO of Global Consumer, sent out an email to all employees where he talked about the George Floyd murder and referenced it as institutional racism. At the time, my first thought was, does he realize what he's just said? Disbelieving that the CEO of the largest corporation in America would do that. Because, well, let's take a look at the definition. I was unable to find a definition of institutional racism itself, so let's look at the two words individually. Institutional definition is of or relating to organized establishments, foundations, societies, or the like, or to the buildings devoted to their work. Institutional. Racism. A belief or doctrine that inherent differences among the various human racial groups determine cultural or individual achievement, usually involving the idea that one's own race is superior and has the right to dominate others, or that a particular racial group is inferior to the others. So if you put that together, what it's saying is that institutional racism is racism of or relating to organized establishments. What he was saying by calling this institutional racism is that every cop, and in fact anyone that has anything to do with the American judicial system, is a racist. Plain and simple. That's what he said. So this week, the National Museum of African American Cultural and History put out a new graphic. I will put it up on the screen so that you can see it. It's titled Aspects and Assumptions of White Culture in the United States. And it goes on to talk about white dominant culture, or whiteness. Refers to the ways white people and their traditions, attitudes, and the ways of life have been normalized over time and are now considered standard practices of the United States. And since white people still hold most of the institutional power in America, we have all internalized some aspects of white culture, including people of color. It then goes on to describe what whiteness is. Rugged individualism. This includes the individual as the primary unit, self-reliance, independence and autonomy highly valued, rewarded in fact. Family structure. The nuclear family, father, mother, 2.3 children, is the ideal social unit. Husband is the breadwinner and head of the household. Children should have their own rooms and be independent. Emphasis on scientific method. Objective, rational, linear thinking, cause and effect relationships, quantitative emphasis. Remember, this infographic is stating that these are all bad things. These are all whiteness. This is racism at its prime, is what this is saying. Anyone who adheres to any of this is obviously a racist. It goes on. History is based on Northern European immigrants' experience in the United States. Heavy focus on the British Empire. Primacy of Western, Greco-Roman, and Judeo-Christian tradition. Protestant work ethic. I'm still trying to figure this one out. Hard work is the key to success. Work before play. If you didn't meet your goals, you didn't work hard enough. It goes on to talk about religion and Christianity. Anything other than Judeo-Christian tradition is foreign. Status, power, and authority. Wealth equals worth. Your job is who you are. Respect authority. Heavy value on ownership of goods, space, and property. Future orientation is another thing they talk about. Plan for the future. Delayed gratification. Progress is always best. Tomorrow will be better. What about this is wrong? What about this is racist? What about this is white? Obviously, the people who put this together, and understand, this comes from the National Museum of African American History and Culture. This is an institution funded by grants by, right on their website, it says the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian Institution which means that your tax dollars, how much more institutional can you get than your tax dollars? Now, I look at this graphic and I recognize the racism in it. It's not the racism that they're pointing out. It's the racism of this entire thing. Really? Because I'm white, I have to be racist? Because I believe that it's better to put off instant gratification for something better down the road. That makes me a racist? Because I believe that a proper family has a father and a mother. I'm a racist? Really? How does this work? They have a problem with scientific method. Do they realize that the numbering system that we use, it's called the Arabic numbering system for a reason? It came from the Arabs. It's not European. It's not white. The concept of zero was unknown until the Arabs discovered it. Have you ever seen a Roman numeral 0? No, it doesn't exist. This was put together by someone. Racially motivated ignorance is what this is. Absolute and total ignorance. This is what institutional racism looks like. It looks innocuous enough. I mean, we're just talking about a few things. We're just stating an opinion. But it's being put out by the National Museum of African American History and Culture. I keep repeating this because I want you to understand. This is an institution. This is an institution that is funded by grants from the Smithsonian. This is an institution that is funded by tax dollars. And they have the gall, the absolute gall, to call me a racist and refer to institutional racism without pointing to themselves. So, this happened this week. I saw it online and I was just appalled. I was shocked and appalled. So, I went out and looked for it. I also went out and started to read. I went, in preparation for today's video, I went to the website where I found the graphic. And because I wanted to read what they said. What does this museum, National Museums, have to say about why they put this up? And what I found was on the page where I originally found it, it's no longer there. Fortunately, I had the foresight to take a copy before they took it down. So I'm going to put the link to the actual graphic as well as the link to the page where I found it in the description below, so you can read it yourself and decide for yourself, is this racist or not? On their page, what they talk about, right at the top, whiteness. At the National Museum of African American History and Culture, we believe that any productive conversation on race must start with honesty, respect for others, and an openness to ideas and information that provide new perspectives. I can't disagree with that. That's not what this was, but I can't disagree with those words. In that context, we recently unveiled, quote, Talking About Race, unquote, an online portal providing research, studies, and other academic materials from the fields of history, education, psychology, and human development. Our goal in doing so was to contribute to a discussion on this vitally important subject that millions of Americans are grappling with. Since yesterday, I don't know when yesterday was, prior to Saturday, July 18th. Since yesterday, certain content in the, quote, Talking About Race, end quote, portal has been the subject of questions that we have taken seriously. We have listened to public sentiment and removed a chart that does not contribute to the productive discussion we have intended. Imagine that. Is a racist chart going to be... it absolutely is a conversation starter, I'll give them that. But it's not the kind of conversation they really want. It's not. First of all, equality. What is equality? Equality is that everybody is treated the same. Simple and basic as that. Everyone has the same opportunities. Everyone has the same opportunities to succeed or fail. No one is put above anyone else. Yet, this is exactly what they do. They go in and they create this infographic telling me that my history and culture is inferior to theirs because it includes things like wealth equals worth, respect authority, heavy value on ownership of goods, space, and property. Hard work is the key to success. Work before play. Cause and effect relationships. Quantitative emphasis. The individual is the primary unit. Self-reliance. Family is good. These are all things that they're saying are bad. Is it any wonder that they changed their minds and took it down? This is what institutional racism looks like. This is what groups like Black Lives Matter are pushing. This is what the left, the American Democratic Party, the American Democratic Socialist Party, is pushing. This is what they want you to believe. This is what they think. Guaranteed, this is what the Democrats look at. AOC, I have no doubt she looked straight at this and said, yep, absolutely, 100% correct. And at this point, she's the one running the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi gives in to her all the time. The Speaker of the House gives in to a freshman representative all the time. Why? Because she understands that AOC represents a group. It's a very small group, but it's extremely vocal. It's a 6%, 8% of the population, but it's extremely vocal. And so Nancy Pelosi can't afford to ignore them. At least in her own eyes, she can't afford it. So what does she do? She placates them. She kowtows to them. She does what they want. This is exactly what they want. Remember, Black Lives Matter was founded by two avowed Marxists. They specifically state that they are Marxist, trained in how to convert others to Marxism, and that they admit that they founded Black Lives Matter as a way to convert black people to Marxism. This is what they do. This is their entire goal. Why do you think that they're defacing statues of Martin Luther King? Does it make sense that a group like Black Lives Matter should be tearing down and defacing statues of Martin Luther King Jr.? Well, if they really were about race, if they really were about fairness to blacks, if they really were about the potential racism against blacks in this country, they would be standing in front of those statues using him as a symbol. Because his words were incredible. I wish we had someone of his caliber talking and speaking for the black community today. I really do. I wish he were still alive. In his I Have a Dream speech, he talked about a time when his children and his children's children would be looked at for the content of their character instead of the color of their skin. That is equality. It's not putting anyone above anyone else. It's simply everyone being treated exactly the same. Everyone being treated based on the character, the content of their character, not the color of their skin. So anyone, any individual or group who uses skin color in their literature or propaganda obviously is not looking for equality, because equality does not see skin color. Equality does not see race. In fact, they have decided that if you are colorblind, you don't see skin color, you're obviously racist. This is what the left has said. This is what the Democrats have said over and over again. Is this really how you feel? Is this how you see things? Do you really believe that someone who says, I don't see color, I treat every person as an individual based on what they do and how they act and how they treat me, that's racist? Now, Ed Perlmutter doesn't like conflict. He avoids it like the plague. He sits in his ivory tower and he does exactly what he's told by his Democratic masters. This is why he voted to impeach Donald Trump. Not because he thought Donald Trump had done anything wrong, or even that he thought that that the impeachment would actually go forward. I have to believe he was smart enough to realize that he knew that it was never going to go anywhere once it left the House. He still voted for it. He and every other Democrat, save two, voted to impeach Donald Trump. Why? So that they could waste our time and tax dollars running through this circus to make social points with someone to prove to their base that they're doing something. That's not how our government is supposed to be run. That's not how our government is supposed to act. And quite honestly, I think that Ed Perlmutter should be ashamed of what he's been doing. Again, I point out, it's not just the Democrats. It's the Republicans too. Different topics, similar attitudes. If you really want change, if you really want to make a difference, if you want to see our country and our government different, do different things, be different things, then you have to stop voting for the same old people. You have to stop voting for Democrats and Republicans and vote for someone different.